The Bite Me podcast is coming right up, and it is brought to you every week right here on YouTube by Freedom Boats. It is the best shallow running boat on the water, and there is a model perfect for you. The Chiquita 14, the Eagle 16, the Patriot 18, the Commander 21, the beautiful Warrior like I have 23, or the big boy that runs so shallow, the General 26. Chet Moore and Pooty can customize it however you'd like, and there's a dealer near you, whether it's the Boatyard in Kemah or dealerships in San Antonio, Beaumont, Corpus Christi, Port O'Connor, Houston, and Aransas Pass. Freedom Boats or freedomboatsusa.com. Well, if I'm not mistaken, the old clock on the wall says 3:30 on the button. How about that? 3:30 on the button. We're hitting it, not 3:32, not 3:35, 3:30 on the button. This is the Bite Me podcast, minus Caleb McCumber, who is on vacation, and that may or may not have something to do with us hitting it at 3:30 on the button. I'm John Lopez. That is Captain Dean Thomas. That is Captain Scott Null. And good luck and Godspeed to Caleb on vacation. Did we figure out he is in Honduras, by the way?
I think so.
I think he's in Honduras. He may or may not know where he is.
I mean, I asked him if he was swimming with the monkeys, and I did not get a reply. So that may have been the last we heard from him.
Yeah,
he may have been swimming with monkeys.
He's truly whereabouts unknown. Appreciate you guys joining us here. Go ahead.
The monkeys had enough of his shit and drowned him.
Yeah, this could be on the table as well. All right, we got a bunch to cover as always today. Thanks to our listeners. By the way, 11,000 members on the group page on Facebook, and you can become one as well and be part of the great community that is the Bite Me podcast community. And of course, always cool stuff on there. Always good recommendations, questions from listeners and friends and both. And you can send us those, send me or all of us or any of us those questions, and it'll be probably on a future podcast. Got a bunch of those today. Don't forget about the group page. You can sign up there. Facebook, search Bite Me Fishing, and you'll find it. And, of course, subscribe. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcast. As always, we recommend Podbean as the first place that you might want to subscribe because you can get every episode that we've ever done. But let's get into it with just sort of a little scatter shooting here to start with, because it was a long weekend. It was a holiday weekend. Our guys have got a lot of things going on. As we mentioned, I had a nice conversation with Colin Zilich from Sawgrass Rods. They've got some really cool things coming down the pike. But yeah, I will say this. We very rarely, we're going to get into some great topics about the summer. I got an interesting question about the best sounds in fishing. I'm curious what Dean and Scott would have to say about that. By the way, June 1st, just around the corner, is federal red snapper season. We might get some recommendation and talk about that with the boys here. But let's start right here with the Sawgrass Rods. And Scott, pretty cool thing going on for you. But I do want to say this first. I've been using them a lot lately, and we always say it. We won't back it up. We won't mention it unless we really believe in it. Man, I really believe in these Sawgrass rods. But tell us about what Collins is doing for you, man.
Yeah, we've been piddling with this for a little over a year now, year and a half. And I ran some demo rods last year. My problem was that, I throw lures to big tarpon. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the rods that I was getting, it felt like broomsticks. You couldn't really throw the lure real well. Couldn't get some good distance on it. And if you did get one light enough to throw the lures, then it didn't have enough ass in it to fight a big tarpon. And so I kind of presented that to Collins, and of course, him being the rod wizard guru he is, he started coming up with stuff. And while I was up there last year, we were throwing some, just launching lures across the parking lot onto the top of Jeeps and all kind of stuff. And so he kept working on it. He got me a couple of them last year, and we caught some fish on them, and we made a few more tweaks. And now he's come up with the full meal deal, and we're ready to roll with the Scott Knoll Tarpon Series rods or something along those lines.
Hey, don't bury the lead, man. The Scott Knoll rod. We got a boat. We got a boat. I got a barbecue sauce. You got a rod. Dean, you got something, don't you? What do you got?
I just got a winning attitude.
He's going to build them on these North Fork composite hybrid blanks. So they're still light and sensitive, but they're tough. You know, it's got some fiberglass to it, and got REC black pearl double-footed recoil guides, so you can't mess the guides up. Those are those ones you can squish down, they'll pop right back. Then the tip's going to be an oversized Torzite tip top from Fuji, so you can cast with your knots and your knots don't hang up. You know, we're using 60 and 80 pound leader. That knot going through there is a pain in the butt, so we oversized that. And then we did the EVA grips and put a 4-inch foregrip in front of the reel, so you can hang on right there and really get some good torque. They're going to be great tarpon rods, but they'll also be good for pretty much anything else you want to throw at out there. You know, any big fish, sight casting to kingfish. You know, when they're boiling up, they'll be a great kingfish rod. Really good for throwing lures at ling. Pretty much anything you want to do out there. Bull reds. I intend to use it on bull reds and jacks a lot. It'll be in spinning and casting, 2 different lengths, 7 foot and a 7.5 foot. I'm going to lean towards a 7.5, and then 2 powers. One's a medium heavy, I think is what he's calling it, and the other one's a heavy. And
now,
so
go ahead.
throw different lures.
Before we get to Dean, you know, obviously you've thrown a bunch of those. I've thrown a bunch of them. Dean's thrown a bunch of them. I always come back to this question. It's a very simple question. Why? Why is this one that you're gonna put your name on?
I trust Collins on building rods, and I know, you know, I know he's going to put out a quality product. It's American made. It's just, I'm happy with it. I'm thrilled to death that he's doing it. I've been wanting to get something like this done for a while, and I kept looking at custom rods to be built, and he's finally come around, you know, with this. And it's not something that you just jump into real quick. You know, I've seen rods done that way, where somebody that tries to fill a niche in the market, and they didn't really do their research and they didn't really work on it. He's put a lot of thought into this, and we've banged our heads back and forth on it. Something else he's offering right now. This is going to be a retail $500 rod.
Okay.
But, for pre-sold rods through June, I think he told me they're going to be available at the end of July on retail. But pre-sold rods through the next month of June, he's going to sell them at $350 a rod. If you pre-order.
I was impressed at 500.
Yeah, I mean, he's just the components in this thing alone are probably $300. You know,
and
easily.
Colby asked, "What casting reel? Let's get it out there. Are you pairing it up with
casting reels? Tranks 400s. That's what I use. Spinning reels, the Shimano Saragosas in the 6,000 size is what I'm going with. Got plenty of line capacity, got a lot of good drag on them, and that's what everything's gonna be paired up with.
Yeah. And Dean, you got the shootout, man.
Yeah, the shootout. That's funny. That kicked in right afterwards.
I could smell the wood burning.
Yeah. And I also mentioned I do have the short-term memory issues. Too much time in the sun, maybe. I don't know. Brain is cooked. But and so Scott, I wasn't paying attention when you were talking, but
all right, Caleb.
Did you mention like jetty, casting from the jetty with that rod?
Oh yeah, that 7.5 foot would be great from casting surf, jetty, anything like that.
Because I mean, I've done that. I mean, that's another favorite pastime here at the Port A jetties. Schooling reds, kingfish, jack crevalle, and and that's exact. I mean, and I don't want to repeat too much of what Scott said. He said it very well, but being able to cast those distances and hook up to a fish that big, and then being able to battle that fish, that combination has not always been easy to put together. I snapped a lot of rods out there with stuff that would cast, but hooking big reds, fighting fish that were way too big, and broke a rod.
Yeah,
I broke plenty doing that.
And that was the problem I kept coming in with. If I had a lot of rod light enough to throw the DOA bait busters I love to throw on those tarpon, we were breaking rods. I've got a whole pile of them out there in the garage that are snapped off at the handle. But then still being able to fight that big fish, but being able to throw a lightweight something lighter. That heavier rod is going to be great for throwing coon pops and some heavier jigs and that type stuff. So in the beginning, we were just going to do one size, and then we got talking about it. So man, it makes a lot more sense to have a little bit of variety in it and be able to throw different lures with different rods.
And Dean, you've gotten a couple of the fly rods from Sawgrass as well.
Absolutely, got them all rigged up, and believe it or not, I have a date booked with Scott Knoll to go fly fishing in about a week. So yeah, we're going to get together and we're going to create a little content for Collins and actually get the I mean, we talk about them, we use them, we do what we do. We're actually going to put the effort and get together and go fishing and do some videos and do a little more explanation, firsthand of show people what they're all about.
Yeah.
I mean, we beat it up good. I mean, and Scott does. He gets way more into the technical aspects. I like getting a product at the end of the program, put it in my hands, it works, and I go fishing. and the rod builder guys, it's the way their brain is wired. They start dealing with the intricacies of geometry and the science and the math that it takes to build these rods. And Scott's getting lured into that now too. But yeah, we're gonna get together. We're gonna do some video here in about a week or so. It's coming up pretty quick. And then show, just a better explanation of, I don't know if it'd be better explanation, but some video to go along with the explanation of what Scott's.
Well, what it can be real good with is you got two of the best casters of the fly rods that we'll be able to see. I was in terms of all relative, Scott, all relative. I was in Dean's backyard yesterday, last week. And
my cast is very utilitarian.
Yeah.
I get the plow there. You're not always wanting to take a picture of it. And man, believe me, there are some amazing casters out there that are magic with a fly line in the air.
Yeah.
I get the fly where I need it to be, and that's what I've always called it. It is a utilitarian cast. You don't want to take a picture of it, but
well, we are. we are. We're taking video.
But a rod like that loads proper, it will take a person who is not the perfect caster, and it will assist you. It will make you a better caster. It will eliminate. It'll hide some of your mistakes.
Well, I was in your backyard last week, messing around with those Sawgrass fly rods, and I did a little bit of fly casting motion.
God. Scott, you want to be entertained? Watch this dude.
I was bring him and Caleb next to each other and see how that goes.
I was breaking my wrist like that, and Dean just goes, "Nope."
It is always so funny to watch a first-time fly caster, and especially someone who has spent their whole life throwing a bait caster or spinning rod, snapping it with the follow-through and everything that goes into that, which absolutely does not go into fly casting.
Yeah. I'm a quick learner, though. I'm a quick learner.
He's slapping the ground behind him and in front of him.
That was Caleb too.
In the same cast. I was like,
hey, it was my first effort in years. So what have you guys been up to? I know you both were on the water today. Scott, what was happening?
Yeah, I had longtime customers out. Dr. Baum out of Sugarland area, and his son. Can't believe I've been fishing Owen since he was about 9 years old, 8, 9 years old. I got a picture of him and his little sister on my boat, sight casting reds. And he's 21 now and a hell of a fly caster. I mean, kid can put it out there. I mean, he puts it right where it needs to be. Dad's a great caster. So I just had him for 4 days. We fished Saturdays. Yeah, we fished the whole. They came down there. I was like, man, y'all know this is a holiday weekend, right? We're going to get run over left and right. And we did, and almost literally got run over. And we found fish every day, all day long for 4 straight days. Tailing fish, big schools, small schools. I mean, it was impressive. I mean, the number of fish out there that we were running across was really, really cool. And the guys did great. And we were battling. Not only was it a holiday weekend, it was blowing 30 miles an hour every damn day. And airboats running everywhere. Mud boat ran up and spooked a school that we were about to cast to. Coming back in the other day, this was a typical Memorial Day thing. Big ass boat, 26, 27 foot center console, loaded down with people. And I'm running, and we're running towards each other on the edge of a channel. So I'm moving over to the right, and I move over to the right, I move over to the right, and he keeps moving over to my side. And I'm looking at both sides of his bow. I mean, he's that zeroed in on coming straight at me. And the distance is closing pretty damn quick. And I just kept moving over. Finally, I'm sideways to him, and I'm still looking at his bow, and he's still curling my direction. I just sped up and hooked it even further right. Luckily, I got a shallow running boat because I was up on a flat that was maybe a foot deep.
What was he
By
doing?
the time it was over with, he was, as he goes by me, I look over at him. Somebody's just looking down at his GPS.
Of course.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, he had mark on his GPS where he had run in the past, and he was following that mark and ran me smooth out of the channel.
Well, we've talked about that. I mean, that a lot too many people are doing that. How about you, Dean?
Fishing, watching. Today was actually so crazy to be out there in the silence, no people, and
it was awesome.
It was it's just weird to go from the madness that ensues for 3 days to just silence, nobody anywhere, and I mean, I guess people are going to do what they're going to do, but man, that's what sick days are for. Fish any other time except for the holiday weekends. But I mean, I have questioned that since the beginning of time, and it's never going to change.
Around here, one of the wild things, Saturday was just stupid. I mean, it was insane.
Yeah.
And then Sunday morning we get over there, and I always think, Sunday mornings are usually a little bit
hangovers.
Yeah, the hangovers and all that. I got there and there was nobody. I mean, I pulled up the Speedy Stop. There was not a boat at the pumps, not one. And I'm looking around. I was like, I'm pretty sure it's still the weekend. And I'm kind of looking around. I get over to the ramp, and there's like 3 trucks at the ramp. I was like, what the hell happened here? It was almost one of those weird movie kind of things where something happened and you don't know about it. You're the only one that didn't get the message. Kind of looking around, I walked up there to the guy that runs the shop, and I said, man, what the hell? It sure is slow this morning. He goes, yeah, there was 2 concerts in town last night.
Oh, there you go. Hangover.
One at 5D and one over at Sharky's, and he said it was 2 big ass concerts, and they were well attended.
Yep, that's it. So, that's what it is.
Yeah, it didn't get busy until about 10 o'clock, 9:30, 10 o'clock, it started getting busy again.
Yeah, that's what I would say. Saturday night victimizes everybody, and then they start showing up later. But that's, one of the tricks to beating those weekend crowds like that is get there early. And then you get 2 hours in the morning of some really great shots. But after that, it's crazy. And then Monday, from where we were out on the flats, you could see the never-ending parade of RVs that were leaving Port Aransas on the causeway. I mean, it was like the circus was leaving town.
Elephants.
And on a sad but crazy note, Monday morning at 3 o'clock in the morning, there was a fatality accident on the causeway right here between Aransas and Port A. So the causeway was closed, so nobody could get out of Port Aransas. And man, every year there are fatalities on that causeway, and this one happened pretty early. 3 o'clock in the morning, a car pulled over on the shoulder, was sitting there parked, and then a truck is coming down the road. The truck hit the car that was parked. I saw the car that they hit that was parked. The 2 people in that car survived the accident. There were 3 people in the truck, 2 fatalities, 1 survived. The car that got hit from behind, it was from the trunk to the hood, was gone on the driver's side. I mean, it was shredded. I cannot believe that people survived
Man.
that. And
Man.
but both of them were drunk.
Yeah.
The parked car, they took them for DUI, and then the other guy was also alcohol related. So
Jeez.
that's where that one ended. But I mean, people got to be the park road from Port Aransas to Corpus Christi also are fatalities on that road. Every year, somebody has a head-on crash on those roads.
Yeah, we talk about it. Shifting gears back to the discussion, though, I get more and more curious. We had that really good discussion week before last, I believe, about tailing redfish and how to, if you haven't listened to it, I'd highly recommend going back and listening, because everything you want to know about fishing and casting and handling tailing redfish, it was a great discussion. So I highly recommend going back on Podbean to see that one, to hear that one. But I'm just fascinated, Scott. Again, I'll start with you on this one. Is it just me, or are we getting more tailing redfish than we've had in, I'm thinking 2 or 3 years since I really saw, more than one occasionally. It's like we talked about it then. You just talked about it. I don't understand. I'm happy, but what is it? Why are we getting these tailing redfish now?
Well, last year we had a ton of, remember I kept talking about we had so many that were 18, 17, 18, 19 inches. These are all mid slots and uppers. I mean, they saw those. We must have had just a really, really good hatch during one of the tropical storms or something. And there's a lot of fish, and there's a lot of redfish out there. And now's just, it's a really good time of the year for them to be tailing. And I'm able to go into places in the backwaters, and I know the routes that everybody's going to run everybody that wants to go to Fish Pond or Mule Slough, they run the same damn routes over and over again. So I just avoid those and then try to go to the smaller and smaller waters. And that's how I was finding them. It was so wild that today, when it went quiet, we were finding fish all over the place. And they were back out on the flats, on the open water, right in the boat running lanes, tailing. I think we have a really good population of redfish. And if those meat haulers would leave them alone and quit supplementing their weak trout limit with redfish that they think they have to, chop their heads off and freeze them. We got a world-class fishery here, and people would come from all over the place to come catch redfish if the population stays up there. I just hate to see all the guys that have, used to be just strictly trout guys, and now they're over there targeting the redfish after they get their 3 trout limit or whatever.
Yeah.
And what's going to happen now that we're getting to the busy part of summer, where there's going to be traffic on the water 7 days a week. I mean, it's not going to be limited to weekends when it's just vacation time. There's just more people, and those fish are going to get run over. They're going to get hammered, and once they're discovered, they just get relentless pressure on them. And it's cool when you can find them and get away with a week of that, which is really pretty interesting that was sustained through the holiday weekend. I mean,
it was crazy.
But that was coming up to the new moon, a good incoming tide in the morning. A lot of things can override that sometimes too.
That was the 4 best days of consistent tailing redfish I've had in several years.
That's crazy. But the other thing, Dean, like I agree with Scott, that it's probably, a good number of redfish that are hitting the water, and we just have, more of them. But we've been in May last year, and I didn't see this many. And, maybe they were just getting run over more early on, or do you have any other theories on why we're seeing them like we are?
Man, coming up to the middle of May, end of May, all of May is really light pressure on the water. Between spring break and the beginning of summer, there's always just light boat traffic. And 5 days during the week, there's nobody out there. And they get into a rhythm, they get comfortable, and then they start. And that's what I mean, to have a school of tailing reds, they have to be comfortable. They get comfortable, they've been in the area for a couple of weeks, and then they're feeding vigorously, and then they stay there, and then they'll settle down, and the school will stay there until they start feeding again, and then they get their tails up. And then, it just depends on the pressure. I mean, I've relived the stories of what Redfish Bay was like 25 years ago, and the difference between the small amount of schools of tailing fish that you see now compared to what used to be there. And it's pressure, it's boat traffic, it is guides who discover them, and then they get on the cell phone and then they call every single buddy that they know, and they just pound those fish until they're not going to tolerate that behavior anymore.
Yeah. I was talking with someone, forget who, a couple of weeks ago, and, he was talking about the podcast, and he asked me, he goes, how come you have so many listeners across the country that aren't even on the Gulf Coast? And I said, redfish, redfish. For people that aren't on the Gulf Coast, it's the holy grail. They don't get it. It's just something it's teasing them,
It is. So we get fishermen from all of the mountain states, from Idaho, Wyoming, Colorado, New Mexico. All of those guys know about the redfish in Texas. It is a attraction. And then during the winter, we get around the Midwest, around the Great Lakes states, Michigan and Wisconsin have a huge fishing culture in those two states. The lakes, rivers, I mean, it is just part of their life. They all know about the redfish of Texas. I mean, they watch the same channels that we do, read the same stuff, and they travel here to get a shot at that redfish. And then another thing about the schools of reds, there's a certain percentage of us that go in there, we catch them, we turn them back. We catch one or two, keep one or two, and then release the vast majority of them. A lot of these guys, the cell phone network, they're going to go in there, they're going to put 4 guys on these boats, they're going to catch 12, they're going to come back tomorrow, they're going to get 12, and then the next day they're going to get 12 until that school is gone. I'll watch it happen all the time. And it's just the amount of pressure that's on the resource, and it takes its toll.
Scott,
I'm get the idea that I don't want anybody to keep any redfish. I mean, my guys kept one redfish today, take home, they wanted ceviche. That's fine. It's kind of funny because they're asking me, is it okay?
Yeah.
Right.
Based off my reputation, I guess. But I don't care. Take one or two, leave the rest. They're too much fun and too enjoyable to just, catch them and kill them all.
Every once in a while in fishing, a reel comes along that changes the game. That reel is here, and if you're not using one, your friends are, and they're probably catching more fish. For sure, they're fishing with more confidence and comfort. Bates reels are the fishing industry's original CNC milled, one-piece aluminum, low-profile frame, built to last, it's built to fish. All Bates reels saltwater ready and good to go. I've got them on my boat. You should too. All reels, 3-year no BS warranty, and they mean that. And a 30-day money-back guarantee. If you're dissatisfied, you will not be. I say it all the time. It is true. No bull, just Bates. And what I was getting at this, I'm sorry, Dean, but what I was getting at this was, Scott, it's happened to me just with my friends from out of state. When they catch a redfish, like I said, it's the holy grail for people that aren't on the Gulf Coast. And I'm curious from your perspective, Scott, because you and Dean have had so many more experience that. And that's where I was getting, we have 50 states. We have people from different countries. That Dean has his friends from Italy that come and target redfish. To me, that's like, it should almost be like the state fish, because it's so it's so important to what we do,
Well, Dan and John, they come from New York. They come every year. They want to come down here and just target redfish, and they've got plenty of fish. They've got all their stripers and all that stuff up there, but there's something different about the redfish. They're a great fish for fly fishermen, because they'll readily take a fly. You can sight cast to them. They're up shallow. they tail, they show themselves. They're a great target and more than likely willing to eat. We had a few that didn't want to eat this over the last few days that were kind of spooky, but I think that was a product of them being run over so much over the weekend. But people see it on TV. You know, they see the redfish tournaments, they see the shows about redfish, and they want to come see it. And that first time that people see a school of tailing reds all piled up, and there's 6 or 8 or 10 tails sticking up out of a school of 50, they lose their mind.
Yeah.
And it's, oh my God, look at that. That's redfish. That's what it really looks like. And it's like, yeah, it's really cool. And I've seen it thousands of times now. Still get excited. Every time I look up and I see it across the cove from me, I'll pull. Hell, yesterday I pulled straight into the wind and it was blowing 20, 25 easily. Pulled straight into the wind for 300 yards to try to get up on a school.
And the state fish, by the way, we got the question here, so some of our listeners might be wondering, is the Guadalupe bass. But I'm pulling for the redfish. It's worth millions to the economy.
We should start a campaign.
We should start a campaign. We got enough stuff going on right now on the podcast. By the way, that's probably a good segue to remind people who weren't listening last week or the week before that all the links are there now for the feeding frenzy. The link for the hotel block is on the group page, on our Facebook group page, and pinned at the top of our group page is the link for the RSVP. Again, I don't think we're at 200 yet, but the first 200 we're going to pay for your meal. And also pinned on the top of the group page is the link for the boat raffle. If you weren't listening last week, it's a 2026 Freedom Patriot 19-foot boat with a 140 Suzuki and a Coastline trailer. And there's going to be other raffle items after we pull the raffle ticket for the boat as well. So you can go to the group page and get all that stuff taken care of. But we went off on a tangent there, but it kind of spawned from what the conversation was. And then that I remembered that friend of mine was talking about, the allure of the redfish and how it means so much to Texas, et cetera. You never know. Maybe down the road, that'll be one of our escapades that we try to start.
And then when you get hooked on, all the stuff that Scott said, you see it, you pursue it, you cast it. When you get hooked up on that thing, it is the most brutal battle of any fish on the flats. It's going to test your knots. It's going to test your hooks. It's going to test you. And so, it's the full package, man. How did the Guadalupe bass ever get ahead of the?
I don't know. I think, Scott, isn't it because it's unique to Texas?
Yeah, they're unique to Texas, and they're not endangered, but they're not real plentiful, and so there's a lot of protection on them. But yeah, that's the main thing. It's our own bass, and it's nowhere else around.
Yeah. So while we're on this topic, I'm going to skip ahead to a suggestion for a topic that Dean texted us yesterday or this morning, I believe, because we were talking about the redfish and, obviously keep what you want, but not, release most of them. And I came across a post this morning, I believe, of somebody posting a picture of like 5 trout that were over 20 fish, 20 inches long. And then he posted a picture of, that was in 2019, I believe. And then he posted a picture of 3 trout in 2025 that were not 20 inches. And it was some sort of complaint about, Texas Parks and Wildlife and the restrictions and all that. And I said, really? Is that what we're doing now when we know that the trout new limits and slots are working, Dean?
Yes, exactly. And so here's what is so stupid about that comment in that picture. Yes. So you're telling me that because you had a picture of your 3 speckled trout today, that you can't catch 3 bigger than that? You can't, that somehow limits you, that your game is so freaking weak that is what you base your skills on now. That's what you base your happiness, your goals in life is. This is my 3 fish limit, and this is where my life begins and ends. What a pile of crap.
Mhm.
That is the lamest excuse attitude of, and the fact that that dude is putting 3 of his little dink ass trout that he went and caught with his happy little croakers, and now he's going home with those 3. I couldn't be happier about it, because you know what that means? Every of those other trout, those other 5 trout that were over 20 inches are all still in the water.
Yeah.
And yes, we are seeing the results in, I mean, what's it been, a year and a half with the new
It's over
limits?
2 now, isn't it? Well, the limits officially about a year, a little over a year.
But yeah, and so these guys, they post their pictures, you know. I have never been so entertained with social media fish pictures in so many years. I love to see their 6 little, and great. Those are the best eating trout, and it's just what you need to feed your family. You know, how am I going to feed my family? Well, you got your 3 nice speckled trout. Put some French fries with that, and you got a lovely meal.
You got a lovely meal.
These guys are
a little pecan crusted, maybe. I don't know.
Yes. Yeah. And a nice green salad, but I don't think them dudes eat salad. But the fact that that is what they're keeping, and you know, the complaints, oh, we're killing all the trout we throw back. That's because you suck as a fisherman. That's because you suck at releasing fish. That's because you don't have skills to, you should, if that's what you're doing, you don't deserve to be there. You don't deserve to call yourself a professional guide if that's what you're doing. And then to come on and complain that this is today's standards and that was 3 years ago standards, cry me a river, son.
Well, Scott, the thing is, you don't have to use sense, because you may not have any. Use common sense. Like, there's limits now on, you know, trout that are over 20. Some of them admittedly are not going to make it, and maybe it's because they suck, like Dean said. But maybe it's just that, you know, the throat hook or whatever, they're not going to make it. The vast majority are going to make it. It doesn't make it common sense.
There have been studies on it. Any of those guys want to come to me and start bitching and crying about it because their ego can't get stoked with a stringer of big trout in a picture, and they want to complain that they're killing all these trout. Like Dean said, they suck at unhooking a fish because it's not that hard. I could probably count on one hand the number of trout that I know didn't, you know, that weren't going to make it when I caught them. They're a lot tougher than you think. Hart Institute out of Corpus did a extensive study on them and found that they are super hardy, very, very much more hardy than we ever gave them credit for. I was always under the impression they were pretty tender fish too.
Right.
They did the studies. They tried it with all different kinds. They went so far as they had different levels of fishermen. You know, they had novices, they had professionals, they had different people doing it. And they used different lures. They used live bait. They used different kinds of hooks. And the results were the same. These trout survived. They don't just up and roll over and die if you handle them, even with a little bit of respect.
That has become their battle cry. We're killing trout that y'all are forcing us to throw back now. That is fabricated. It's a pile of crap. It's just their little, and then of course, it's like a little parrot. They hear something, the next guy repeats it, the next guy repeats it, and then somehow it becomes fact.
Yeah.
It's not fact. Just because you heard somebody say it and you said it again, it doesn't make it true.
I'll go with the scientists at Hart Institute before I'll go with Billy Bob fishing guide service down there in Corpus, wanting to tell you how it is.
You mean
how the truth
Billy
is.
Ray?
Well, okay. Well, first of all, we do have the official title of Dean's cookbook from Justin. It's Dean's Delicious Dink Ass Dishes. So that's the winner so far. Dean's Delicious Dink Ass Dishes.
I have been overdue to make a new hook 'em and cook 'em video, and that That will be the title. That,
All right.
that,
And not
a 15.5-inch trout. We'll call them the dink ass dishes.
and
the
on the
dink ass
menu
Dean's
tonight
delicious dink ass dishes.
is going to be French fries and a little dink
I'll do
ass
that.
fillet.
I'll do that video with you next time, this coming weekend.
We'll do it, man. Yes.
And
Hey,
not
we'll
to
do three trout, 3 ways.
yeah. And not to sort of turn the knife a little bit more and prod you guys a little bit more, but you did remind me of this. You talk about false narratives or made up narratives on why all of a sudden these rulings and guidelines and laws are killing the fish over 20 inches. I'm gonna put it this way, Dean. When was the last time you caught 5 or 10 over 20-inch trout on cut mullet? Did you see that post?
Oh yeah, of course.
So just before you go off, somebody posted, I'm killing that he was killing more trout now with the cut mullet than he ever did before because they're swallowing it. And I'm like,
and this dude was talking 27 and 28-inch trout.
10 a day.
Yeah, 10 a day. 10 trout, 27
mullet.
inches on the cut mullet.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. I didn't see a picture. I didn't see a video to back up that wild ass claim, but I saw a picture of his 3 dink ass 16-inch trout that he laid on the table.
Dink ass trout. When was the last time you caught any trout on cut mullet?
On rare occasions, trout will eat cut mullet. And I can't say that it hasn't happened because I have seen trout over 25 inches actually eat a piece of cut mullet. But there's none of this out there that you can't say that a trout is never, ever going to do that. They eat things. Every fish out there is going to pick up something and eat it at some time. Do the majority of big trout eat cut mullet or cut shad or any other dead shrimp that these guys are going for black drum, redfish, and these? Because there is a shit ton of guys out there throwing cut mullet and shad and shrimp every single day lined up that are bringing in a boatload of black drum and they're bringing in redfish on those things. And they're not catching speckled trout on that. I mean, there's going to be one rare occurrence every once in a while, but 10 a day and you're killing them because you're fishing. No, man. So who does he think we are? I mean, we couldn't. Nobody is that stupid to believe that.
We're out, especially you guys. We're out on the water all the time. You guys are out on the water every day, Scott. I mean,
and not only.
I'll see floating trout all the time. There's floating dead trout. I have yet to see, since these regulations, honest to God, I have not seen a floating trout over 20 inches anywhere in the bay, and I go all over the damn place. And I'm around a lot of trout fishermen, and I don't, I'm polling the shorelines. If they were anywhere, they'd be floated up to the shorelines.
Yeah.
And I have not seen a single trout over 20 inches floated up on a shoreline anywhere.
Yeah. Which begs go ahead.
So I try to stay away from the social media stuff. Rarely do I jump in. And it was about a week ago or something. I actually I jumped in the lion's den. I threw my neck on the chopping block and gave my opinion, and it was crickets. Not a single reply.
Funny as hell. I mean, there was people just chiming in left and right behind that guy on the cut mullet. I mean, oh yeah, we're killing trout. We're doing this. The regulations suck. Blah blah blah. Dean came in with a really good, concise little post behind it. There was not another single post behind Dean's.
What'd you say?
I explained that if it's that quick and that easy, that why not grab a piece of plastic, a topwater? Why not make it fun? Why not make it a challenge? Why not spend some time teaching people how to catch fish and then how good they release? I mean, I just went and gave the best explanation of why you should try a piece of plastic, try a topwater. And, I thanked Texas Parks and Wildlife for being proactive to a situation instead of reactive to a crisis. And Yeah, crickets. Crickets. I was ready, man. I was like,
It shut
I
the
was like,
whole thing. I was ready too. I was just kicking back. I got a beer and I'm thinking, oh, this is gonna get good. And
Yeah.
it was nothing. It was
I
just a
even
big
went
old
back like
popcorn
2
fart.
days later to search it up. I was like, man, did I miss something? What?
Yeah.
And it died right there. So yeah, whenever you battle people with good rationale, and it's hard to get a good rational fishing debate
Gene was ready.
nowadays.
He was ready. He had his arsenal.
Well, one thing, like Owen's got Dad's phone because it keeps coming up Lawrence Baum. So I'm sure it's Owen. But he was curious about the warm water later in the day affecting the redfish after fighting them. We did have one roll up, and we were like, oh hell, we've been fighting it on fly rod, and it was in that grass, and it got hung up in the grass and the thick stuff, and it struggled a little bit. So when we were releasing it, he kind of let it sit for a minute and kind of revived it a little, and then he turned it loose, and we saw it go upside down. So I pulled over to it, and we were just, okay, well, we'll keep that one. That'll be your ceviche fish. And as soon as we got to it and he reached down to touch it, that son of a gun swam off like a rocket, man. But what happens is you got that warmer water. And when I reached into the water too, and when I was landing that fish, and the water had that bath water warm kind of feeling to it, and the fish had gone really, really quiet on us. They'd been tailing really good early, and then they had shut down about 10:30, 11 o'clock, and that water had just gotten so damn hot, and it just doesn't carry as much oxygen. So you have to be more careful about your release and how long you hold on to them when you're going to release them. Make sure that they swim off upright. If a redfish turns upside down, he can be in the greatest shape ever. You turn him upside down in the water, he will lay there and die. If you get him right side up, chances are much better he's going to take off.
And I see that happen. It happened just the other day when Lindsay was with me. And she's the one I talked about last year. One of the most favorite people to ever fish with, that she loves every jellyfish. She loves every mullet. She loves every bird, everything out there. She caught a badass redfish. We released that redfish and it rolled over. Oh my God. I thought she was going to cry. And I kept telling her, I was like, it's faking. I'm like, that fish is just faking. I'm like, there's nothing wrong with it. And she's like, oh my God, it's okay. I grabbed my push pole. I reached out there, tapped that fish, boom, gone, full speed. So it's not uncommon. They do that. But if you nudge them, if you give them a little bump to kickstart them a little bit, they're just fine. Speckled trout, seen the speckled trout do it many times, even wade fishing in deeper water. You release a trout, you see it floating over there, belly up, you tap it with your pole, boom, it kicks, and that fish is gone. They're faking.
Let's talk about the most important thing between you and that potential fish of a lifetime: lines and leaders. Seaguar, truly the best. They've been doing it at the highest level since 1971. People always ask, what do you throw? I throw Seaguar. The double structure fluorocarbon is virtually invisible in the water and has exceptional strength and castability. And if you love and trust Seaguar Fluoro, you're going to love the braid. Man, bait casters, spinning reels, inshore, offshore, it's the absolute best and the only braid I throw. It's Seaguar, the best quality, the most trusted name in the game. Get to a great retailer near you like Fishing Tackle Unlimited or Anglers Anonymous. Visit seaguar.com. That's SEAGUAR. Seaguar, always the best.
On a lot of these boats and guide boats too, is when they are catching these fish that they're not going to be able to keep, they're pissed off about it, and they throw them back in the water like a hand grenade. I mean, they just chunk them and belly flop them down on the water real hard. And just lean over the side of the boat and release the fish. It's not that hard. You ain't got to chunk them.
Those dudes have never seen a fish they did not want to eat. And that is, they just have never practiced releasing a fish, and it's just not a mindset for them. And it's just, I don't know if we're ever going to change the world, but we keep trying.
The other thing that I've seen, and this is what I thought you were going to say, Scott, a lot of people, they'll release a fish, maybe even in the water, and it ends up belly up, and they kind of go, oh, well, man. They're like, well, lost that one. No, you have a trolling motor, you have a push pole, just ease over there, grab the tail or turn it over or whatever. Like the whole concept of, oh, well, lost that one. No, go over there. You're the next fish, you're still going to catch another fish. They get so involved in, trying to catch another one or whatever because they just caught one and they kind of shrug their shoulders. That's what bothers me.
Yeah, and we're working on it. Like Dean said, we're trying to change the world here, and it's a slow process. I do see more and more people getting the idea and getting on board with it. I see it more and more and more. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. We got a lot of listeners here, and we got a lot of people on our podcast or on our Facebook page. And
you know what else we have? Here's a little or a fact that we can't register, we can't record, because you know who else is listening to us? The haters. And see, they're not registering, they're not signing up, they're not chiming in on the comments here, but I guarantee you they're listening. And
no question about it.
And their clients are listening, and it takes generations to change the world. It really does. I mean, we've made the comparison to the bass fishing world on how that transformation took place once upon a time. And they're listening. I know y'all are out there. I know you're out there.
I can't tell you how many people have fished with me and then they end up on some corporate deal where they're going to some lodge, pick a lodge that has a bunch of boats and they're all going out, and they've told me, come back to fish with me again, and said, man, I went out with such and such lodge and we were with that guide and I just wanted to release the fish. And he said, no. And he threw it in the cooler. Yeah. And he's like, we got to get our limit. And he said, I didn't even care anything at all about getting a limit. He said, and then when we did get a limit, he fired the engine up and took us back to the lodge.
Yep.
He said, I'd much rather fish with you and just fish all day and have fun and get a full day in. The day on the water is what's important. It's not the fillets at the end of the
I hear the same thing all the time. It's like I got invited to go on this trip and got put with a guide. It's not they went out and shopped for this guide. They didn't do it. They got put on that boat. And it's one of those deals. It happens every day up and down the coast. And yeah, those stories come back and you'll hear. And the number one complaint, the biggest complaint is I got on a boat, dude caught me, my limit of fish, brought me back to the ramp. It wasn't even a question. Are we going to get to keep fishing? Are we going to get to catch and release? The goal was get limits quickly as possible. And most of those boats aren't letting you cast for yourself. I mean, they're casting and then they'll belittle their clients if they miss a strike, if they miss a fish, because that is 10 minutes longer that they have to fish today to get that fish in the cooler.
Yeah.
To make it back in earlier. So
and I keep trout too, occasionally, that Dean, Jan wants to, have some fish that day or whatever. But I remember even when the limits were 10, having, whatever, you're talking with your buddies and everything. And how'd you do? Well, I caught at least the limit. I would say, well, where are they? No, I caught them. I don't have to have a picture of 10 trout. I caught them. If you don't believe me, that's your problem.
100 trout. I mean, there's days you can be wade fishing a drop off and you can find a sweet spot and you can literally stand there and catch 100 trout a day. It can be done. But then, I mean, hell, look at when the limits were 10 and the guide got to put his limit in the cooler as well. And they would not stop until that was done, which is why we have a 3 trout limit now. Thank you very much, Texas Parks and Wildlife. Thank you, everybody who put the effort into doing that. And yes, and back to the original question that I don't know if we lost that somewhere, but we are definitely seeing the results of that limit as we speak. And it is happening. We had a very mild winter. And if we have another mild winter, and we said that before, he said, give this 2 or 3 years of every trout over 20 inches going back in the water, and think of how many 25-inch speckled trout are out there swimming around that would not have been there 2 years ago.
I kind of doubt myself. I know I've mentioned this to Scott. Like, I think I'm seeing it already, Scott. I think I am seeing more bigger trout and catching more than I have. And it's only been a year plus.
Yeah. I mean, think of how many there were that, because the limit was up up to 25 inches.
Mm-hmm.
And so all those fish between 20 and 25, now between 20 and 28,
Mm-hmm.
all got to go back in the water. So they
And
can
now
again.
we're coming into the best trout fishing of the year here in Redfish Bay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, through the summer months when those trout get on the drop-offs, they're in 4 to 6 feet of water. They're very predictable. You can walk into those areas and just watch and see. I mean, watch the next 3 months of the difference in the productivity and the speckled trout that you can catch.
And that was something that Eric was wondering about. Actual, hey, y'all going to talk fishing today or what? If you listen to every conversation we've had, there are elements of catching fish and what to do and how to release and all this. That's talking fishing. I'm not picking on you, Eric. Dean just mentioned, the summer months and the drop offs and all that. That's talking fishing. I'm not trying to to belittle you here, but it does lead to one very specific fishing question that's on our rundown today, and it has to do with that, and that is the summer. And Dean, you started it, so I'm going to go with you first on this one. Summer is here. I mean, you've seen the temperatures. You've been out there wiping your brow and covering that little hoodie that you like to wear when you're fishing. So the question that I put on the rundown is, now what? And now what? Now that summer is here, and where you and I like to fish, and then Scott, what is going on with the summer? I guess we can call it pattern or whatever. But what are changing in some of the approaches here?
Well, two things coincide. The wind stops blowing and the trout move off of the flats to the edges of the drop-offs. They really congregate along channels, the edges of the shallowest drop-offs where you got 2 or 3 feet of water or 1 foot, and it drops off to 4 to 6 feet of water. So if you're going to fish from the boat, holding your position on those drop-offs on very windy days is very difficult, or having a shoreline that's oriented to the wind where you can cast with the wind in your favor and stay in like that little specific zone to stay on them. So when the wind stops, it makes those things easier to park the boat on or run the troll motor down those edges and be very consistent. So that, I mean, all of May with these windy days, I have spent 100% of my time drifting the flats, the shallow stuff, throwing topwaters, and you're going to mix in trout with those redfish until the water temperature gets in the upper 70s and close to 80 degrees. Then those trout move to the edge.
Two things before I get Scott's, middle coast and lower middle coast thoughts and upper coast. Now that summer is here, number one, are you seeing that starting to happen already? On the drop offs, and what changes in terms of what you're throwing?
Oh yes, and it's been hard to see it because today, actually this afternoon, is the first day that the wind blew less than 25 miles an hour in as long as I can remember. I even made the comment, I said, I don't know if I'm going to remember how to fish without wind. But we start throwing soft plastics, 1/8 ounce jig head, the K-Wig Mansfield Margarita, or the Flamingo, the hot pink, are the two that you will find on my rods 99% of the time.
And weedless.
For that. Now on the drop-offs in that 4 to 6, it's going to be a jig head with an open hook. 1/8 ounce jig, sinking down to about 4 feet. And what I always like to do is I'm going to park up shallow, cast out deep, and work that thing back to the edge, throw it out there. When it hits the water, you give it like 5 or 6 seconds, just let it sink to the bottom, and then work it back up in the column as it's coming to you. I'll give it 2 or 3 sharp strikes to get some attention, make a little noise down there, let it settle back down to the bottom, couple pops, and then from there I'm working it mid column all the way back to me. But that's going to be, I mean, it's pretty straightforward, and rarely do I vary from that, from an 1/8 ounce jig and a K-Wig ball tail shad.
Scott, I know you're in the flats a lot. You're in the back lakes and poling, but give us the rundown on somewhere on the lower middle and middle coast.
Get your fish early, on those flats and in those back lakes. because once that sun gets up good and starts heating things up, July, August, June's not terrible. June, generally, you're still going to have your fish up shallow and doing stuff throughout June, but towards the end of June, into July and August, early September, get it done before 9:30, 10 o'clock, especially on redfish in those backwaters. The oxygen level just starts dropping as that water temperature goes up, and the fish, they're poikilotherms, so they're they're going to be feeling that heat, and it just slows their body metabolism down. They just start conserving energy, and they're not really going to get real active. Same thing with trout. You fish those edges of those drop offs. That's my favorite thing to do. If I'm going to go trout fishing, I'm on the edge of where that you see that green grass drops off, somewhere within a 50-yard stretch of that from the drop off end, throwing top waters at daylight and up until 7, 8, 9 o'clock. And the other is going out in the surf. When we start losing the wind and the wind starts dying like it did this afternoon, the surf is awesome. Love fishing the surf. Going out there, throwing some little small plugs, top waters, soft plastic, whatever you prefer to throw out there, generally will work.
And keep your nose and your eyes open for the easy stuff, slicks and birds. If you're on some of these coasts, some of these bay systems where that's happening, right?
Yeah, I ran across 3 or 4 slicks in the last couple of days. That's the first time I've seen slicks in a while, and the slicks were popping up, but it was so damn windy you couldn't tell where they had come from.
Yeah,
those slicks were racing across the water. So it was really hard to figure out exactly.
Fish were a quarter mile away.
Yeah. There wasn't much to that. You get a little bitty whiff of them as you drove by. That was about it. But yeah, you can, on those calmer days, you can really start watching where the slicks pop up, and you want those small slicks. You don't those really big, huge slicks that everybody sees and gets all excited about. Start looking upwind from those and see if you can find some smaller ones. And that's where the fish are actually feeding. Think of it as a drop of oil. We've all worked on our boat, some of us more than others, on the water. And you drop that little bitty drop of hydraulic oil or whatever from your power pole or whatever it is, how it spreads out really quick. That's all that is. It's fish oil.
It's oil. It's oils. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a fish oil. So it's going to spread out and get on the surface and start floating when it's really little. The biggest trout I ever caught in my life was off of a oil slick like that, a little bitty slick that popped up that was about softball size. I just happened to see, I'd seen 3 or 4 others that were bigger. And then I looked over and I saw this one little bitty slick had popped up, cast right into it, and bam.
Yeah.
Y'all know that's trout puke.
Yes, they regurgitate. They regurgitate, but it's oils from their system.
Your stomach.
Yeah.
They eat so much when they're feeding, they puke it up and continue eating.
Me too.
Just like the Golden Corral.
Hey man, I made some fantastic carne guisada with that venison you gave me, Dean. It was outstanding. It turned out really, really good, man. That's what I had.
How much did you eat?
Well, counting leftovers, 3 plates. I didn't regurgitate.
You didn't regurgitate and then eat again, did you?
I probably should have.
It was that good.
It was that good. All right, so boy, a lot of meat left on the bone. We
made Eric happy.
We made Eric happy. Thanks, Eric, for the nice comment. But the thing about talking to these guys is when you listen to the podcast, and this is where I get a lot, and I've been fishing forever. Just read between the lines, listen between the lines, and you can get a lot of information, no matter what the topic might be. But the topic right now is what would Scott do and what would Dean do? If my eyes don't deceive me, Dean, and of course, as soon as I say this, the wind Friday and Saturday gets a little better, man. It looks like it's going to be coming from I think Friday, I don't have it open right now. I think Friday was northeast, and Saturday I think it shifted, but not too crazy. What are you thinking for this weekend?
So check out what Dean is going to do.
All right.
Dean is going to go do some kayak fishing is what Dean's going to do.
That's what I'm talking about.
It is the wind has come down. The tides in Redfish Bay are up. Beautiful on
Your
the
back is
shallow.
better.
Man, I can't tell you how good it feels to feel good about being able to do that. But yeah, I'm fixing to get back into some more kayaking. I'm going to spend a lot more time out there exploring those areas, get back to my roots a little bit. And I've actually kicked around guiding some kayak trips.
Okay.
That's still bouncing around in my head on how I'm going to go after that. But there's a demand for it out there. We have the thing about right here where I live in Redfish Bay for this causeway, we have the most amazing access to world-class redfish, speckled trout, kayak fishing. You can launch your kayak in so many places around here, paddle 10 minutes, and you're in primo water. So, I mean, I'm ready to get back into some of that.
Well, we got a couple of questions on the live feed here, again on YouTube every week at 3:30, and I posted it everywhere that podcasts are by 6 p.m. about kayaking. I will tell you this before we get into it now, because I want to get to Scott's. What would he do? That is a topic that we didn't get to today, so it actually works out better because Dean's going to kayak, and we have a kayaking topic for next week all ready to go.
Yeah, man.
So stay tuned
And
for that.
Scott as well. I mean, Scott, we did it for many, many years. We could do an entire hour on launches, rigging, trashing the little troll motor dudes on their kayaks, and such as that. But yeah, we could do a whole show on kayaking.
Well, it's on the docket for next week, so that's what they call a tease in the business.
Hell, I literally wrote the book on it.
You did. You did.
There.
Yeah. So stay tuned, as they say. What about this week and this weekend, Scott?
Hey, Friday's wild. I mean, it's 5 miles an hour or less all day long, and it comes from every different direction. It's southeast, it's northeast, it's east, it's south. It just bounces around. This is gonna be one of those light and variable kind of days. Those days are fun. That's a perfect kind of kayaking day right there. Saturday doesn't look bad. It picks up a little bit. Yeah, man. I mean, that's the dealer's choice right there. You can go do whatever you really like to do, unless you want to use a shootout and start drifting. You're just gonna be sitting still. But pull one around with your trolling motor or something. See if it slows your trolling motor down. But yeah, you can, getting out and wade fishing, stalking up on some fish with a fly rod if you want to, or sight casting to them, or wading drop offs. Man, there's so much you can do when it gets calm like that.
The next 5 days has a forecast like we have not seen. In I don't remember.
So get out there. I'm gonna be out there.
It's perfect.
And then we got
the only thing it's not doing for me. It's not dropping the swells enough yet. I think we've had so damn much wind that the Gulf of Mexico is just like a washing machine right now, and it's going to have some continuing waves for a while until it gets a chance to settle out and have several days.
Yeah. Well, how about that storm that passed through this morning?
Oh
my goodness.
I left my house this morning. It was blowing out of the south at 30. And I'm thinking, good Lord, I almost called the bomb boys and said, boys, we fished the last 3 days and we did really good. We might want to skip this one. And then as I went ahead and drove into Port O'Connor, I'm driving and there's lightning in the sky. It's like, this is not smart. And then I get out of the truck and it's blowing straight out of the north at 30 after it just been blowing out of the south. I was like, man, I got to looking at radar, and the radar was showing it was clearing off the coast. But we launched and it rained on us a little bit, got the rain jacket out and went on over there, and it was absolutely ripping and blowing hard. And the first stop that we came up on, we found two pods of tail and redfish and all that slop. It had birds sitting right on top of them. And I was like, man, maybe.
Yeah.
And then we ended the day at about 1:30, 2 o'clock, and it was absolutely dead calm, slick water.
Yeah.
And still had tails.
Yeah.
It was an interesting day, and it blew from every damn direction. It
Mhm.
was south hard, it was north hard, then it was none, and then it was a little bit, and then it was back to none again. It felt like 4 different days. It was pretty wild.
All right, boys. That was a great show, man. Appreciate it. Appreciate everybody joining us live and listening on the podcast when we post this. Don't forget all those links that you need for the Feeding Frenzy are up there. And of course, Caleb, I guess will be back next week unless he decides to just stake a claim down in where? No, I said Honduras. Is it Honduras? Where is it?
We don't know.
It's one of those.
Well,
We really
the last
don't.
we heard,
Nicaragua,
it was
Honduras, Costa Rica.
All right.
or Thailand.
Or
He didn't even
Thailand.
tell me where to send the bail money, so I'm absolutely no help.
Swimming with the monkeys. And of course, he wrote the book on kayaking. Dean's going to write a book on what did we say it was? Those delicious dink ass dishes by Dean. So you guys keep a lookout for that. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. You guys have a great week, fantastic weekend. I'll be out on the water. I'll see you out there. You catch them up. We will see you next time. All righty.